This is the Jocko Underground podcast number 195 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. We have various questions from the troopers, the members of the underground. And we are going to provide guidance, suggestions, recommendations, courses of actions, and in some cases, answers to your questions.
Yep.
Let's get into it.
We're getting through this maze of life.
The maze of life.
It can be a maze.
Yeah. Sometimes take a wrong turn. Sometimes somebody knows to tell you, go left, go right, go straight.
Right.
Go, turn around, go back.
Right.
Don't go down. Don't go any further down that particular path. Go down this other path, the path of discipline.
Sometimes you can take 1, 2, 3, 4 wrong turns, and it takes more than just one correction. Maybe 2, maybe 3 corrections. You know what I'm saying?
Can happen.
That's what we're here for.
All right. What do we got?
First question. Hello, Mr. Willink. My company buys in fully to extreme ownership. I have a question for you tied to cover and move. Is there ever a time in your experience that covering and moving becomes ineffective and the wrong move? Like if you help your teammate, but they are inherently toxic and their involvement in most things are negatively affecting work? Or is that any conceivable scenario that cover and move is not the right call?
Yes. Of course. Anything that you do to an extreme can make it bad. And this is why we wrote the dichotomy of leadership, because we wanted to make sure that everyone understood that. And this includes taking ownership, even the idea of taking ownership. If you take that to an extreme and I'm going to own every plan, I'm going to own every decision, and now Echo that works for me in my hierarchy, he now has no input because I'm taking ownership of everything. So even extreme ownership can be too extreme. So cover and move is the same thing. And if you have someone, let's say they're showing up late all the time and you keep covering for them. Look, you show up late, Echo shows up late, I cover for him all day, right? All day, I got you. Hey, no big deal. But 2 days, 3 days, 1 week, a month, you're late. You don't learn. You interrupt my capacity. The team is ultimately going to suffer and the mission's going to suffer. So yes, there's a point where if you keep covering for someone where it becomes negative. And not to mention if someone's doing something immoral, illegal, or unethical, and you cover for them, you're culpable for that behavior as well. So that's the clear one. But it sounds to me probably what this person needs is like the escalation of counseling, you know? Like, and I'm not saying you need to go at them like head on, but asking some earnest questions like, hey dude, like, how do you think other people perceive you when you act that way in the meeting? Like, I know you're trying to get your point across, but don't you think that you're making other people defensive? Or, hey, do you think that your behavior right now, do you think that's helping like unify the team and helps us positively get the mission done? Because like, what is it you're trying to make happen? Or like, hey, do you think that when you get that super negative in front of the team, what do you think that does to the team? You see what I'm saying? It's just asking some questions. And my goal in a situation like that is to try and help the person see how they're being perceived by others, right? Not to tell them how they're being perceived by others, but to help them figure out how they're being perceived by others. That's what I want. But and then if that indirect approach starts to you don't get anywhere with them and they keep behaving the same way, you might have to increase directness to make sure that the team's not negatively impacted, right? So cover and move is great, but if I end up covering all the time for someone that's not doing their job, consistently not doing their job, consistently showing up late, consistently not performing, consistently being inherently toxic, then that is not good. So that's why we initiate that escalation of counseling. So that's the way it is. Just like everything else in leadership, just like everything else in life, you got to be balanced.
Let me ask you this.
Send it.
Let's say, well,
you got a little question about the maze here?
Yeah, a little bit. No. This is total hypothetical. I can't think of any particular person who's like this, but when I hear the idea of what if this person is toxic. So, some people, they can be like kind of good at their job or whatever, or good enough, we'll say, at their job, but they're toxic in the sense that they're super argumentative. They're like blunt unnecessarily, maybe a little crass, maybe even like they complain like a lot of, they're pessimistic, like just real kind of down to ruin some short-term relationships, you know, like kind of that kind of person. insecure, the whole deal, right? And after a while, it's kind of like, yeah, they're kind of good at their job, but above and beyond that, they're just like not the person to be around, like no one likes working with this person kind of a thing. And let's face it, that's not like some rare thing that when you think about it, it's kind of like, oh, we all kind of either have or do know someone like this. So consider this idea of, hey, we're gonna like not help this person, or we're gonna kind of deliberately withhold the cover and move idea. Like if I see this person about to fail on something, I'm not going to give them some easy advice. I'm going to let them fail, and I'm almost kind of embracing and encouraging his failure just so he can kind of phase himself out of the organization, we'll say, right? How much value is there to that? Or am I just being toxic now?
Well, I think it would depend on the situation where, how much have you tried to help them? How much have you tried to steer them in the right direction? And I have said before to people, like, they're going to dig their own grave.
Yeah.
Like at a certain point, you're like, hey, they're going to dig their own grave. And you actually don't want to get your hands in the dirt, right? So that does apply sometimes. You always make a concerted effort to try and help someone. Of course, you want to help people out. You want them you got them hired. I mean, not just beyond like the human component of like, hey, dude, if I see you going in the wrong direction, I'm going to try and help you. And I'll first start with an indirect question. Like, hey, dude, everyone notices when you're late. Like, is everything okay? That whole thing we've been through 1,000 times. But not only that, but as a business, you hired the person, you put in the effort, you've issued them their laptop or their gear or whatever. Like we want people to be successful. But if they start to be, where I thought you were going to go with this question was like, hey, if they're negative attitude, but they're a good performer, what do you do? Well, you get out your scale and you weigh, is this a net positive or net negative? And if it's net positive, okay, we try and help the person. But if it's a net negative, well, we don't really want that person, especially once we've tried to make it a net positive. We've tried to make those adjustments. We tried the counseling. We tried to talk to them, and it just still ends up being a net negative. At a certain point, you go, okay. And then it's like, well, we're going to let them dig their own grave. And, how long does it take someone to dig their own grave? Usually when they're that toxic that they can't be corrected, it doesn't take them that long. So, yes, sometimes that is an appropriate course of action. And the other thing that's kind of, I guess what I use the digging their own grave is sometimes I've told you, I've been indirect with you, I've escalated directness, and I've literally now told you like, hey, if you keep acting this way, you're not going to be here anymore. And you still don't listen to me. So it's not until you start to dig, you start looking around going, oh, wait a second, I can see where this is going. And you self-correct because you were able to realize that what I was saying wasn't just my opinion. It was for real. So for me, the last sort of step in counseling, in the escalation of counseling, the last step is like, okay, good luck. And you watch them dig their own grave. And on the way out, as they're digging, you're like, hey, do you notice it's getting dark around you right now? Do you notice that there's like depth underneath your feet? Do you notice that there's a big pile of dirt next to you that's going to cover you? Do you realize that? Do you realize that like you haven't gotten any calls? You haven't got this person. This thing has happened. You haven't gotten the whatever. Like all those things are adding up. You're not getting invited to the meeting. You haven't been asked to take lead on this project. All those things. You know what that is? That's you digging your own grave. So sometimes the reality doesn't set in until they've started to dig their own grave a little bit. And that's sort of my final, I would say my final step in escalation of counseling is like, okay, dude, I'm telling you, like, this isn't going to work out well. I was working with a CEO that I told, hey, if you keep acting like this, you are going to get fired. And he said, they can't fire me. I created this company. I was like, okay. I was like, listen, dude, I'm telling you, like the board, it's not your company anymore. It was your company. You did create it. Good job. It's not your company anymore. And if you proceed like this, you will get fired. And by the way, the board told me you will get fired. I told him that. I'm like, the board told me you will get fired. This isn't me making stuff up. He got fired. straight up. So yes, can you go too far with cover and move? You can go too far with any of these concepts. But that is how I would handle it. A little escalation in counseling. Yeah. And eventually, do you have to let someone dig their own grave? Yep. You can also just fire them. You can also be like, hey, look, we've done everything for you. This was your last warning. You didn't heed it. you're out of here. Because the escalation of counseling goes into written paperwork. It goes into, a personnel improvement program. It's like the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, it's like, yeah, you're not going to be here anymore.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of being actually in the situation, because like there's such thing as people who have like a bad attitude and do all these things, yet they do technically do their job.
For sure.
And basically someone who rubs everyone the wrong way in every possible way aside from on paper. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like the guy at the meeting who's
and there's also people that you go, okay, cool. The person's a really good performer. I'm going to isolate him as much as I can. I'm going to let them kind of do what they have to do to get the work done, mitigate as much as I can with the rest of the group, because they're, they have a negative attitude, and I can still let them do that. So yes, I will try isolation as a component. So that is a little excerpt of what we are doing on the Jocko Underground podcast. So if you want to continue to listen, go to jockounderground.com and subscribe. And we're doing this to mitigate our reliance on external platforms, so we are not subject to their control. And we are doing this so that we can support the Jocko podcast, which will remain as is, free for all, as long as we can keep it that way. But we are doing this so we don't have to be under the control of sponsors. And we're doing it so we can give you more control, more interaction, more direct connections, better communications with us. And to do that, we're building a website right now where we'll be able to utilize to strengthen this legion of troopers that are in the game with us. So thank you. It's jockounderground.com. It costs $8.18 a month. And if you can't afford to support us, we can still support you. Just email assistance@jockounderground.com and we'll get you taken care of. Until then, we will see you mobilized underground.